Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 1 of our story. If you like this What If story and want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by the shipper 101 on Wattpad. Now let's start. Izuku's POV read a quote once that said, "I don't remember what it's like not to feel broken. I can relate to this on a deep level. As they strap me to the machine that alters my memories, I struggle to remember who I am and why I'm here. I am Izuku and Midoriya. I go to UA High and I will become a hero. I was captured by the League of Villains." My mind flashed back to when these guys got a hold of me. I was walking home from school one day, distracted with my black eye that 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had given me today. He got in trouble, but my face still stung. I did not want to talk to my mom about 𝐀𝐿 hitting me again, but I decided it was inevitable. I was so engrossed with thinking up a good way to explain this to my mom, I didn't recognize all the people in black slowly gathering around me. I was ripped from my thoughts when an arm was suddenly draped over my shoulder. A hand wrapped loosely around my neck. I was so surprised that I didn't realize what was going on. I looked up and a sudden dread washed over me. It was Shigaraki Tamura. Everything seemed to stop. Sweat ran down my face and my breathing quickened rapidly. "Hello, Midoriya. It's so nice to see you again." Then, with his lips pressed against my ear, he whispered, "Don't think about calling for help. Make a move, and you're a dead man." His grip on my throat suddenly tightened and I was struggling for breath. He took me down an alley where other villains were waiting, some girl, a guy with his skin stitched in place, and the man with the warping quirk. The girl tied me securely with a rope and gagged me. Then, a blindfold was put over my eyes and I was slung over someone's shoulder. I tried to struggle, but it was no use. Ever since, I'd been missing pieces of my memories. The only people from school who I can remember the names of are 𝐀𝐿 and Todoroki, but not what they look like. For everyone else in my class, it's the opposite. I can almost remember the girl with the brown hair's name. It starts with an O, I think. No AU. Everything else aside, all I know about the villain's plan is to force me to kill with the quirk my favorite hero, All Might gave me. Although, the problem is I still don't have any control over it. It breaks my bones, which the villains ignore. They cause me pain anyway. Who cares if I have to suffer more? They inject me with needles then ask me questions. I've learned to lie. What is your name? Izuku. Where did you go to high school? Silence. Who is your favorite hero? Silence. What is your mother's name? Silence. And so the useless questions go on. If I don't answer, they'll assume that they've made progress. I don't know what I'm fighting for exactly, but I'm not letting go of it. I didn't like these people. They forced me to steal and practice killing people, hurting me. I couldn't stand it. They left me alone for a little bit, in a straitjacket and my boxers. The first time they had injected me, I lashed out and tried to get free of them, then knocked over a vial of the serum that they were putting inside of me. Since then, they restrained me while they did their experiments. Soon enough, I knew I would forget everything. Though I didn't know what that meant. I hardly remembered who I was. Did I have friends? A family? What was my normal life like before these guys took me? Eventually, they ran so many tests on me that I forgot everything besides my name. I had no idea what gender I was, how old I was, where I was, or who the people were who made me like this. They told me the basics about my life, but no details. The empty space in my mind bothered me, but I tried not to think about it. Instead, I focused on learning what these people were trying to teach me. I had no morals and no bad feelings about what was to come. I could ignore the pain of my power with a smile on my face. Even the broken bones didn't seem to hurt anymore. The man with the stitches, who I only knew as Dabi, smacked me across the face. "You've got to focus, Midoriya. You hardly even hit the target this time." I mumbled an apology, causing him to hit me again. No talking. I whimpered on the inside, fixing my gaze on the floor. "Now try again and use your power." "Got it." I nodded and took the knives in my hands. I drew my arms back, and using my quirk, threw the knife into the middle of the human-shaped target. There was a crunch as my already broken bones fractured a little more. They used to push me harder, but after learning that there was a possibility of permanent paralysis in my arms, they stopped. Now, they kidnapped a man with a healing quirk to fix me up after every lesson. The only one that pushed me to my limit and possible paralysis was 𝗧𝗫, who relentlessly pushed me until I either did it right or collapsed from pain. After a few more throws, he let me go. I went straight to my room, which was nice but small. Wasn't sure what exactly was supposed to be in a room, but I had a pile of blankets and a pillow. I didn't have any extra clothes, though the girl, who I learned was named 𝗏𝗏, usually made sure that I had new ones when I either grew out of them or ripped them. There wasn't much for me to do besides training. I usually spent my free time trying to remember my past, though it seemed impossible that I would ever remember my friends or family, if I even had any. It was hard to believe that I wasn't just grown from an experiment, without a past at all. I laid down on my blankets and closed my eyes. Gotta get my broken bones taken care of, I thought, already drifting off. The sound was there, but the pain wasn't. I hardly could feel their abuse anymore. Shigaraki's hits almost seemed like comfort compared to the broken bones and loneliness I felt. At least when I was hit, they paid me some attention. If you don't get treated, you'll be no use to us, Midoriya. Your arms will become paralyzed and your quirk will be useless. Don't you get it? Without us, you wouldn't know how to properly use that power. He hit me again. Don't you see? I'm treating you as if you were my own son. I'm giving you my knowledge and how to survive. But payment to me is not you paralyzing yourself and making your arms useless. I didn't say a thing. I was taught not to. I let my beating go on and then the captured doctor took care of me. I could tell he was always terrified when he was healing me. He never told me directly how my condition was. Instead he turned to Shigaraki and quietly explained what the damage was and how it would affect me in the future. He can't keep breaking his bones, he said quickly and quietly. The multiple fractures are destroying his structure. He lifted an arm and showed Shigaraki the scars and bends in my arms. If this keeps happening, I won't be able to fix it. You need to take it easy on him. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the room changed. Before the doctor could apologize for speaking out of turn, Shigaraki grabbed him by the front of the shirt, which started to turn to dust in his hands. Are you telling me what to do? I can always find a new doctor for my apprentice here. You're replaceable, you know. I didn't mean to, sir. The doctor was shaking in fear. It almost made me laugh. Not laughter full of humor, but an emotionless, hollow one that fills silence and puts emphasis on the irony of the situation. I probably used to whimper like that. I honestly didn't even know anymore. Now, he hardly even scared me. Shigaraki Tamura, my mentor, my worst nightmare, my only friend. Shigaraki dropped the doctor and turned to me. Come along, Midoriya. I've got something fun planned for you. You've got a mission. My ears perked up at that, if I'm going to be honest. Nothing filled the void of loneliness inside me. Most days I was either training or alone in my room. Sometimes, Shigaraki would eat with me and 𝗏𝗏 would fret over me, but I wasn't sure either of them really cared. They probably just did it because they lost a bet or they thought I would leave if I felt neglected. I could easily sneak out of the hideout if I wanted to. My doors was left unlocked and I was never supervised. However, there was no point in leaving. I had no one, no friends or family, there was nowhere for me to go, and certainly no point to me wandering about alone on the streets. Shigaraki warned me that I was wanted and to avoid heroes at all costs, since they would lock me up and kill me in horrible ways. Their was of justice is praised while ours is despised, although they're no different. He hates heroes and the one he hates the most is All Might. I learned to hate him too. Shigaraki brought me to the bar where the others I knew were. I only really knew 𝗏𝗏, 𝗧𝗫, and Black Mist. Along with Shigaraki, these four trained me the most and have caused me the most pain. They turned me into what I am now. They explained to me that they had a mission for me. I felt a bit of nervousness rising up inside me, though I didn't know why. Because I hadn't been outside in ages. Because I actually had something to do besides train. No, it was because I finally had a chance to prove myself. To use my power like I was taught. I got a new outfit, though it wasn't really my style and I couldn't see how it would help me in any way, but it made sense when I learned Toga had picked it out. It was a suit not useful for fighting or anything, but she said I would look good in it, and that was all that mattered. My mission was to find 3 hero eggs, or students training to be heroes. I had to kill 2 and capture the other. I was given pictures of each of them. 2 of them looked a little familiar to me, but the third, the one I had to capture, definitely sparked memories of my life before. All this happened. One of the 2 I was told to kill had black hair and glasses. He looked serious and scary. The other one had a cold expression on his face, but the most distinctive feature was his 2-toned hair. One side was white and the other was red. His eyes were also 2 different colors, one brown and the other blue. Another feature was the burn over his left eye. I could definitely find. Then, there was the one I was ordered to capture. In the back of my mind, a memory, was being tugged at. I felt hatred and remembered explosions, but suddenly, white-hot pain erupted in my head. I lost the memory, so instead I studied what the boy looked like. His hair was a sandy blonde and his eyes were small and even colder than the boy with 2-toned hair. He looked like he was ready to murder anyone who got in his way. How will I capture him? I asked quietly. For that, Dobby punched me in the gut. I wasn't supposed to talk. We'll be waiting on 3rd Avenue. All you have to do is lead him there. Shigaraki explained as if it was obvious. And, you know what happens if you fail, right? I swallowed and nodded, remembering all the tests they did on me too. I couldn't even remember what those tests were for. Whatever it was, it still haunted me. I wouldn't fail. I couldn't. It wasn't said out loud, but I knew my worth to Shigaraki and the rest of the bunch rested on this mission. If I wasn't ready, they'd kill me in a heartbeat, or break my limbs so much that they won't work anymore and force me to drag myself around, treated as a neglected pet. It would be a fate worse than death. I changed into my suit and was given multiple knives and guns. My costume hid my weapons surprisingly well. No one would have guessed that I was an assassin tonight. I took the pictures of my victims with me, although their faces were ingrained into my mind. They were my victims and I would carry out this mission. My life depended on it. I was given no information, but some instinct inside of me told me to go to UA, although the kids were supposed to be long gone from school at this time of the night. On the campus, I found a building called Heights Alliance with 1A on it. I assumed that it meant Class 1A and somehow, I knew that was where I would find my victims. This mission was also a test, to see if I could handle the life that the 4 of them set me up for. I had no idea where the 3 of them would be, but I had to find out, and before anything happened. I was surprised that I didn't run into any security. I was sure that UA was well guarded. I shrugged it off and went to work figuring out which side of the building was for the girls and which one was for the boys. I looked in the winds on the ground floor, seeing that it was just the commons area. Very carefully, I picked the lock on the back door, thinking it would be better to enter from the back. There was less of a chance for alarms to go off in the back. I was dumb and alarms went off anyway. I hid as the kids arose and their panicked whispers told me they were gathering in the commons area. I knew they were powerful and their quirks could easily kill me, but I had to fulfill my mission. With shaking hands, I took a gun out from under my suit vest and aimed slowly looked around the ajar door at the kids. They all looked so familiar. One of the kids I was supposed to kill held up his hands. Calm down everyone. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about. His voice. Why did it seem so familiar? Why did I feel like what I was doing was wrong all of a sudden? I pointed my gun at the boy with black hair and glasses. Before I shot, I scouted out the boy with the 2-toned hair. I would have to take quick aim to hit him before being discovered. Then there was the boy I had to capture. He was still half asleep and a little bit away from the group. How would I get him out? I had a tracking device on me. It's been there ever since I could remember. It doubled as a panic button in case I got into trouble. I decided to grab the kid in the confusion, hit the panic button, then Shigaraki and the others would come and get me. I would certainly get a beating for messing up this mission so bad, but at least I'll still be alive if I bring the kid with me. I aimed the gun at the boy with the glasses. Right between the eyes. Instant death. I steadied my shaking hand and fired. The gun was so loud and time seemed to slow. Suddenly, A name flashed across my mind. Ida. Somehow, I knew the boy. The one I had just shot. With a gasp, I looked up, expecting to see blood and brains splashed on the wall, but there was nothing. Nothing but a bullet embedded there. The students went silent. Then, as if as one, they all turned and looked at me. I swore under my breath and tried to stand up and run, but I wasn't fast enough. The boy, Ida, used his quirk, some kind of engine in his legs, and grabbed me by the shirt. Who the he dash? He stopped and his face went pale. And Midoriya. A jolt went through me. How did he know my name? I struggled to get free of his grip. He seemed pretty shocked, so I slipped right through his fingers and started to run. Why was he so familiar? Why did I want to cry and say sorry for almost killing him? But why didn't I kill him? I was sure that I was aiming at him. I couldn't have messed up that badly. I wasn't an amateur. Suddenly, something long and slimy wrapped around my middle. I yelped quietly out of surprise as the thing lifted me into the air. Out of panic, I grabbed a knife and slashed the thing. It released me, but I heard a yelp of pain. I risked a glance behind me. A girl who looked like a frog was holding her tongue where I had slashed it. I ran faster, pressing the panic button on my tracker. I was jerked to a stop. I looked down and saw my legs encased in ice. My eyes widened and I tried to get free. Any minute, Black Mist and Shigaraki would show up and get me out of here. I wasn't ready for this. I couldn't kill these kids, they're hero eggs. I mustered up my strength and used my quirk to free myself from the ice. I lost my shoes and broken my legs, but I tried to limp away as fast as I could. I wasn't used to using my legs to fight, so the pain was way more severe when I broke my legs than when I broke my arms. My world was pain and I couldn't get away fast enough. They were going to catch me and kill me. Just when I was about to collapse, a warp gate opened up. I ran for the life of me inside, crashing onto the bar floor. I was breathing heavily and just realizing that I wasn't out of danger yet. I looked up slowly, my eyes meeting Shigaraki's. I felt like crying at his icy gaze. Please no. I thought. Haven't I suffered enough? Midoriya, Shigaraki scolded me quietly. You failed. I knew I was going to get it. I forgot all of my training in my panic, not to mention my mission. I couldn't even kill that Ida kid. I panicked. I knew that Shigaraki was going to hurt me. He grabbed me tightly by the arm and dragged me to the room where he had done experiments on me. He ordered me to lift my shirt and face the wall. I did. I couldn't see what he was planning, but I knew it was going to hurt. Sure enough, I felt a sharp pain on my back and tried to suppress my cries of pain. I knew this punishment well enough, since it was the most severe he could think of. He was using scalpel to slowly peel the skin off my back. I shook from pain. I couldn't stand due to my legs being broken, but even if I had started by standing, the pain would have made me collapse anyway. Sadly, this wasn't the worst part. He left me to bleed out for a little hit, then came with a pitcher of spiked lemonade. He roughly wiped away the blood, then poured the drink down my back. I couldn't hold my pain in. Instead, I let out a piercing scream of pure agony. He left me there for a while. I knew my back would never fully heal. The scars would always be there, no matter how many times I was healed by the captured doctor. I sobbed myself into a fitful sleep, trying to forget the pain. Sooner than I expected, Shigaraki came back. He stroked back my hair in a fatherly way. This wouldn't have happened if you had done it right the first time, Izuku. A shiver ran down my spine. Whenever he used my first name, he was about to hurt me. Sure enough, his light stroking stopped. He tangled his fingers in my hair and tugged on it as hard as he could. I yelped as he dragged me by my hair to the operation table I hated so much. I was in too much pain to fight back. Before he started, he wrapped my torso with gauze so I wouldn't die of blood loss. Then he forced me to sit up. Now, Izuku, answer me a few questions, okay? I wanted to refuse, but he didn't give me the chance. He had a syringe in his hand that would wipe my memory. I swallowed hard. Did you remember anything, Izuku? My bottom lip trembled before I could stop it. That's how Shigaraki figured out I was lying to him. With a strangled voice, I answered the question. Yes. What was it? I didn't look him in the eye. I remembered Ida. And he knew me. But anything else? The boy you asked me to capture. He made me angry. I hate him. Is that it? I swallowed and nodded. Shigaraki smiled. Don't worry, Izuku. You'll forget all this and things will go back to normal. Doesn't that sound nice? I didn't respond. I couldn't without making him angry. I was shaking as the needle got closer. Please no, don't make me forget again. I don't want to. I felt tears running down my cheeks. I wanted to remember something. Why did he have to make me forget? As I was expecting the needle to plunge into my neck, the alarms started to go off. Shigaraki growled in annoyance and stood up. Don't you move from that spot, or I'll WHP you. With that threat hanging above me, he threw down the syringe and stormed upstairs. I waited for 10 minutes in pure silence, trying to guess what had set off the alarms. I was too scared to move, even though the position I was in made my back hurt. I felt like crying, but I was too dehydrated to make any tears come. The thought of water brought thoughts of food, which reminded me it had been a few days since my last meal and how much weight I had lost. Not that I had much to lose in the first place. I was startled from my thoughts when the basement door slammed open. I stayed perfectly still, thinking it was Shigaraki coming to plunge a needle into my neck. I began to shake with fear. I closed my eyes and tried not to think of the pain of losing my memories, of having an empty void in my head where my thoughts should be. I only realized that it wasn't Shigaraki when I heard how heavy the footsteps were. My eyes popped open and right in front of me was All Might, the hero who Shigaraki said would kill me. He had a smile on his face and I was petrified. I stared at the enemy of my mentor with eyes as wide as saucers. Midoriya, he said quietly, starting to walk over to me. I panicked and grabbed the first weapon I saw, the syringe. All Might seemed to be taken back by this act. It's me, kid. Stay away from me, All Might. I squeaked. He held up his hands in a defensive gesture, like he expected me to just put down my weapon and go with him willingly. Young Midoriya. His voice sounded sad for some reason. What did they do to you? First you sneak into Yue, then you try and kill young Ida. Shut up. I yelled. I couldn't even stand due to my broken legs. How do you know me? Just put the syringe down, Izuku, then I'll explain everything. When he said my first name, something sparked inside of me. He was here to hurt me. That's what always happened when Shigaraki said my name. Don't take another step. These villains have messed with your mind, kid. Do you even know who you are? Stop confusing me, I said. Shigaraki. He brainwashed you, Midoriya. You've forgotten your friends and you. Everyone thought you were dead, including myself. But now I'm here to free you. You want to kill me? That's what Shigaraki said you'd do to me if I got caught. He said. He was tricking you, my boy. Don't you remember? I gave you your quirk. I helped you get into Yue. You admired me as a kid and you still do. I opened my mouth to argue, but I didn't even know if I believed my life of a lie anymore. The syringe fell from my shaking hands and tears that didn't come before started to roll down my face. A sharp pain shot through my brain. All Might, the hero I'd admired. He came to save me. I didn't. I just totally broke down. Before I realized what was happening, I was wrapped in All Might's arms, bawling my eyes out. I apologized over and over again, crying until I was just heaving dry sobs from my sore throat. My back was on fire and my legs felt like they would never work again. All Might picked me up in his arms and took me upstairs. Other heroes were there, but I couldn't seem to remember there. I buried my face in All Might's chest, finally feeling safe after being in fear for so long. Shigaraki. He'd really hurt and confused me. I would never be unable to forget how to kill or that I was surprisingly good at it, at least in practice. Apparently I didn't have the guts, since I couldn't kill Ida. All my classmates. They were slowly coming back to me. Uraraka, Todoroki, Azui, Kaken. I couldn't believe I would forget him. I'd hated him for so long. Midoriya, the police want to ask you some questions. I looked up at All Might. See, can it wait? I want Amui's nurse. What's her name to fix me up first? and I want to tell my mom that I'm okay. Midoriya, everyone thought you were dead. My eyes widened at this news. Huh. Your mom was devastated and refused to see anyone from the media or you. This may come as quite a shock for her. I think I'll calmly explain the situation to her while Recovery Girl is fixing you up. Okay. I smiled at the thought of seeing my mom again. At the mention of Recovery Girl, I suddenly remembered something. Oh my. There was a doctor that the villains captured to fix me up when I broke my bones. Did you find him? All Might nodded. Don't worry, young Midoriya, he's in good hands. I'm glad, I said. I winced as All Might readjusted me in his arms so he could place me in the back of the police car we were taking to you. What happened to your back? Oh, it was nothing. I'm fine. My voice broke. Just fine. I felt the tears building up behind my eyes. I wasn't going to let them fall. I couldn't. I had to stop being a crybaby. Midoriya. It's okay to cry, you know. Holding everything in like this can't be healthy. He climbed into the seat next to me so I wouldn't be alone in the back. My bottom lip started to tremble. All Might. He hurt me. A lot. I didn't want to kill 𝗀𝗍𝗓 told me to, and I did it so he wouldn't hit me. I started to sob again. I didn't want to kill 𝗀𝗍𝗓 and Todoroki. I wiped away the tears, but they just kept coming. 𝗀𝗍𝗓 wanted me to kidnap 𝗀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, but I couldn't do it, so he punished me. All Might let me cry for a little bit. We were already halfway there when I finally got control of my emotions. Sorry about that. Everything's still a little fuzzy. You should rest, All Might said. It will get your mind off the pain you're in right now. Pain. I gave a humorless laugh. This is nothing. I was in bed for 4 days after that. I was kept at UA where security was the best. Mom came and checked on me every day. When she first came, she had cried for most of the time and wouldn't let me out of the hug I was locked in for at least 10 minutes. I probably would have done the same if I thought she was dead for 6 or so months. My classmates came in, though it was hard to talk to them after firing a gun at 𝗀𝗍𝗓. He said he knew that I wasn't myself and forgave me, but I couldn't help still feeling guilty. Recovery Girl helped me with my back, healing it in no time. My legs would take some time, however. Another problem was the precarious state my arms were in. If I used my power a few more times and ended up breaking my arms, I'd be done for. I didn't know how I would live with never using one for all ever again, but the bigger struggle was living with arms that would never move again. The ugly scarring on my arms were my constant reminder of the danger I was to myself. All Might would visit me a lot. It was usually after he had drained his hero form either by teaching or fighting villains in the morning. On my last day in the hospital, I asked him something that had been constantly on my mind. Do you think I should give up trying to be a hero? All Might was silent for a while, looking everywhere besides me. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, Midoriya. I gave you one for all so you could live out your dreams and become a hero. I knew the consequences, but I gave you my power nonetheless. I'm sorry, my boy, but with your current condition, I can see no way that you could survive hero work. I was silent for a moment. The words hurt. I'd been putting together fragments of my memory since All Might had saved me, and the strongest emotion I felt was the want, the need, for me to be a hero. It was my driving force. Without it, I was just another bystander. I gripped the blankets so tight that my knuckles turned white. Don't cry. You knew this is the only way. Tears slipped silently down my cheek, closely followed by another, then another, and before I knew it, I was a sobbing mess. Everything I worked for. All Might. What you trained me for. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for. So much trouble. All Might, in his weaker form, wrapped his arms around me, almost like a father. I'm sorry we couldn't save you earlier, Izuku, he said quietly. This is all my fault. I'm so sorry, my boy. Mom picked me up later in the day. I could walk again and my back gave me no pain. The car ride was quiet, but I knew I'd have to tell her sooner or later. Mom. Yes, sweetie. Mom answered right away. I swallowed hard. I think that it would be best. If I dash, a car horn suddenly blared as my mom swerved to stop from going into the opposite lane. I jumped. Are you all right? Sorry, Izuku. You know I've got a one-track mind. Can hardly talk and walk at the same time. Could you tell me later? That way everyone will be safer. She was smiling, but I noticed that she was hiding something. She looked older. Had my disappearance and reappearance been too much for her to handle? I hoped she hadn't lost too much sleep over me. Right when she put the car in park, she said, "Okay, I'm listening." Okay. I got out of the car and followed her inside, starting to tell her my bad news. As I was saying, since my arms are in pretty bad shape. Well, All Might told me that it was a good idea, so I think that I'll give it up. Give what up, Izuku? I think that I should quit going to UA and forget my dream of becoming a hero. She was silent for a moment. Oh. Well, if that's what you want. I mean, being a hero has been your dream since. I know. I felt the tears wanting to fall again. But I'm a danger to myself. I don't want to lose my arms. Do you think that it would be a good idea for me to just live a normal life? My mom wrapped her arms around me. Izuku, I think that would be for the best. It felt like my whole life crashed onto my. I buried my head in my mom's shoulder and let out everything I'd been holding in since I was rescued. She had confirmed my suspicions, but it still hurt that everything I'd worked for was being destroyed before my eyes. Even though I knew I could no longer be a hero, I knew that I wouldn't give up going to UA. After confirming it with the faculty, I was admitted into the general education program at UA. The idea of this program was to let kids with either weaker or seemingly useless quirks get into the highest-ranked school in Japan. My mom forced me to stay home and heal before she sent me back to school. Once in my life, I didn't mind her babying me. I was confined to my room for 3 days, despite me being fine since the trip to the hospital had patched me up, and my mom almost refused to let me be alone. I didn't mind. I was glad she was there. Finally, it was the morning I would go back to school. I kissed my mom goodbye, something I hadn't done in years, and waved to her goodbye before I walked to the station. To my surprise, Ida and 𝗬𝗓𝗃 were both waiting for me at the end of my street. "Hey, Deku." 𝗬𝗓𝗃 waved to me with a smile and just as cute as ever. Was she? Blushing. I shrugged it off. It must have just been hot. I was feeling a little warm myself. Ida looked glad to see me, but also wary. "Are you sure Yo should still be attending UA?" I blinked. Why not? Isn't UA supposed to be the safest facility in the world? It is, but you somehow broke in. You know, that night. Oh. Now that I thought about it, no alarms or anything had gone off when I snuck in and tried to. I shook my head. No use thinking about the past. I'll ask All Might about it during class. I was getting all new teachers too. Maybe going back to UA wasn't the best idea. Well, I'll give it a try for today. If I can't handle it, I'll talk to All Might about it. We went to the station together, not mentioning anything about me being evil or how I could easily be kidnapped again. The Alliance did get away, after all. Or at least Shigaraki, Toga, Mist, and Dabi, although they were really the only ones who mattered. You in there? Huh. I realized I been staring off into space. Are you sure you should be going to school? Ida asked. You still seem a little unstable. I laughed it off, saying I would be just fine. We got off at our stop and walked up to UA. New classes, new peers, and new teachers. This was not something I was exactly looking forward to, but considering I had broken in and tried to kill 2 of their students, I was grateful for the opportunity. We'll ride back home with you too, okay Deku? 𝗬𝗓𝗃 said. I nodded with a smile. At least I still had friends. Am I just supposed to walk in there like it's completely normal? They all saw me at the sports festival and knew I was in the hero program. I thought worriedly as I stood outside my new classroom, Class 1C. I bit my nails and tried to get the courage to walk in, when someone grabbed me by the shoulder. I jumped, but tried to calm my nerves when I saw who it was. 𝗏𝗏𝗃-kun. I said. What are you doing here? Hello, Midoriya-kun. Hitoshi greeted. This is my classroom. I haven't seen Yo around. Word around school is you got captured by villains and tried to kill your classmates from 1A. I had met Hitoshi during the sports festival. He had a brainwashing quirk that only working if you answered his question. What? So you get kicked out of the Department of Heroes for that? Or what? And no, I was in danger of permanent paralysis to my arms if I kept using my quirk, so they sent me here. Hitoshi simply shrugged. What are you waiting out here for? Come on. I followed him in the classroom and cringed slightly when all eyes fell on me. I heard whispers, but Hitoshi pointed to an empty desk. Sit there. I took my seat and tried to ignore everyone around me. This was going to be harder than I thought. General education seemed a lot less interesting than the Department of Heroes. Our teacher was still a pro, ectoplasm, but his lessons were nothing like All Might and Mr. Aizawa's. I have no idea who the homeroom teacher for Class 1C is, so I just chose one randomly. We learned almost nothing about heroes, which was understandable, but it made me miss 1A even more. Everyone in this class were strangers to me, and I didn't feel like I could relate to them since I had the potential to be a pro hero, but here I was, sitting in a completely ordinary classroom learning about life science and how plants grow. I felt the eyes of my peers on me, judging my every move. I wasn't used to drawing attention from people, so this freaked me out a little. After first PRD was over, a few kids came up and asked me what I was doing in Class 1C. I tried to explain everything the best I could without mentioning how I had been kidnapped, but they didn't look completely convinced. At lunch I found Ida and 𝗬𝗧𝗟 and sat with them. They asked me how my new classes were going and I lied, saying it was going great. I didn't want them to worry about me. The rest of the day went by in a blur and I found myself waiting outside for my friends. Hey, 𝗧𝗏. I looked up and was filled with dread. It was 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and he looked annoyed. He had stopped picking on me so much after the sports festival, but after I had been gone for so long, did he want to bully me again? I heard you got booted to General Ed. I scratched the back of my head. All Might said it would be dangerous dash. I know all about your sob stories, so cut the C. I know you broke in and went on a murderous rage. B, but I didn't dash. Shut up. He pushed his hands further into his pockets. I don't care what those losers threatened you with. I just wanted to make it clear that I surpassed your wimpy quirk and I'm going to be better than you and everyone else. I didn't want to win this way, but I guess I'll just have to accept it. See you around, 𝗧𝗏. He started to walk away, but I stopped him. 𝗀𝐾𝐮. I swallowed my nervousness. We were rivals. He had to listen to me. Who says this is over? I'm not going down that easily. You're just gonna have to wait. You'll see. I'll surpass you. I swear I saw 𝗀𝐾𝐮 smirk as he turned away. You're a stubborn dumbass. That was all he said before walking away. Deku, called a voice. It was 𝗬𝗧𝗟. What was that about? Oh, it was nothing, I said. Sorry to keep you waiting, 𝗬𝗧𝗟 said. Hey, did I ever give you my phone number? I was just thinking, if we ever have a super late class, wouldn't want to keep you waiting all day for us. Here. She took my phone and added her number to my contacts. Thanks, I said. I couldn't believe I actually got a girl's phone number. And 𝗬𝗧𝗟's, which made it even better. Ida had given me his a while ago, so I was covered there. We walked to the station just like normal, ignoring the rift that was slowly coming between us. I had never really had friends before coming to you. But after everything that had happened and being assigned to a different classroom, I knew things wouldn't be exactly as I wanted them to be. No hanging out, no staying in the dorms over weekdays, just hanging out at lunch and on weekends. This was defiantly going to try our friendship. I heard you're in the same class as Hitoshi-kun. At least you're not in a class of complete strangers. 𝗬𝗧𝗟 said with a smile. I tried to smile back. Yeah, I guess. I'm sure you'll make a ton of friends, Deku. 𝗬𝗧𝗟 was beaming now. Although, I'm still not sure about how safe it is for you to go home every day. If the villains got you before, I'm sure that they know where you live. You should come to the dorms with the rest of us. B, but I'm in Class 1C now, I said. Are you sure it would be alright? I had been taken by the villains before the dorms have been made. In fact, my capture was the reason for the building of the dorms. UA had top-notch security and they found it safer to keep an eye on all of Class 1A since we had been the main reason UA had been getting a lot of hate. Villains had an eye for us and many parents were scared that UA was putting their kids in danger. I thought it was a good move even if I had been oblivious to it. We had gotten to the station. I felt a lump form in my throat. Well, I'll see you guys around. We'll hang out soon, Deku, 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗃 said. Are you free Sunday? We could hang out at the mall or something. I shrugged. I think I'm free. See ya. I turned and got on my train. I felt tears building up behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. This went on for weeks, and I wasn't sure if I could keep the mask of contention on any longer. All my former classmates were getting closer and closer to becoming heroes, but with every step I tried to take towards them, I was hit by a rushing wave and thrown dozens of meters away from them. I was slowly drowning in the grave I dug myself, and with every fiber of my being, I knew that I had to be a hero, no matter the cost. I was making my way to lunch when someone grabbed me by the shoulder, causing me to jump. Calm down, it's me, All Might. I plastered a fake smile on my face. It's been a while. I have something I want to talk to you about. Follow me. Oh. I followed All Might to the teacher's lounge where he turned to his true form and relaxed on the couch. I sat on a chair across from him. What did you want to talk about? Your grades are plummeting. I inhaled sharply. So he knew. I chuckled a little. It's nothing. I smile again. It's just because I'm not in the swing of things yet. That's not it. All Might interrupted me. Midoriya, are you sure you want to keep attending UA? My smile faltered slightly. Oh, of course. I'm getting a good education, it's not too expensive and but you came here to be a hero. Not because it was the school you wanted. You wanted to go here for the sole purpose of being a hero. Now that option was taken away. I swallowed. It wasn't far off. No, that was right on point. But Izuku. Are you sure that you're happy? My faint smile vanished. Happy. Tears started to leak. I'm such a crybaby. I wiped them away, but they were replaced with fresh water. Before I knew it, I was a sobbing mess. I just wanna be a hero like you. Thin arms wrapped around me and I returned the embrace without thinking. I was a sobbing mess. My world had been torn from under me, all my hopes and dreams along with any friendships I had made during my short time at UA. And here was All Might, my hero. He didn't give me those comforting words, you can be a hero. Instead, he just embraced me in a way you would hold a person who realized that their best friend died. He didn't offer me any words of hope, and I knew that he wouldn't. What I wanted and longed for was impossible at this point. We stayed that way until my crying had stopped. At that time, lunch was basically over. All Might poured me some tea to calm me down and offered me his lunch. I'd noticed you haven't been eating lately. I know that this is hard for you, but you can't just give up. There are a million different jobs out there which I know you'd excel at. You're smart and hardworking, which makes for a coworker that everyone wants. There's a job fair coming up that I think would be helpful for you to attend. The room went silent and I tried to stifle the disappointment on my face. I'd never thought that I wouldn't end up a hero. It had seemed impossible without a quirk, but it was something I never gave up on. To think of a new career path after such a long time. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear, kid. It's a painful time for both of us. Are you going to find a new successor? It was a very blunt question, but I knew this would change everything. If All Might took a new successor, I wouldn't be able to spend time with him. He would be another person that I would have to forget about. Just like everyone else from my past. The room went silent once more. All Might didn't look at me. After a few minutes, a soft voice answered. Yes. Or a better answer, I've. The words stung, but I tried not to let it show. Everyone thought you were dead, All Might continued. Including me. Your mother was the only one who wouldn't give up on you. At least, that's what she said. She started to doubt it just like the rest of us a few weeks before we rescued you. My successor is a third year named Mirio. I see. I stood up slowly. I guess that you have a new successor, I won't be hanging around you much anymore. All Might didn't say anything. Without the ability to safely use my quirk, I was just another one of his students. I was less than that. All Might didn't teach any other classes besides the one for the Hero Course students. I guess I'll see you around then, All Might, I muttered the words, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. All Might said nothing. The bell hadn't rung and I hadn't touched the food All Might had offered me, But I wasn't too concerned. I walked to my classroom and took my seat. The tears waited until I was alone to start flowing. No matter how much I wished I could go back to the past, I couldn't. Why had All Might given me false hope? If he hadn't, I would have been happy and clueless as a quirkless loser. But now, I was a loser with a useless quirk with the insane dream of being a hero. I looked down at my books. The corner of my notebook was peeking out. I picked it up and opened it to a random page. It was the page on 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. I glared at the notes. They were all useless. Every single page which I had poured my heart and soul into. I glared at the pages with an intensity that could burn a hole through it. Without a second though, I slammed the notebook shut and chucked it across the classroom. I hate you. I have no idea who I was yelling at, but it made me feel better to get it out of my system. Well, came a voice from the doorway. I jumped at it. Looks like someone's having a temper tantrum. Hitoshi was leaning against the doorframe with his arms crossed. What? The great Izuku Midoriya has finally realized what being in general studies is really about. It's not a very popular place to be, as you can imagine, but once you get to know the kids here, we tend to stick together. It's not that. Sorry you had to see me like that though. I'm just a little stressed at the moment. I'll be fine in a little bit. You never really explained why you're not in the hero course. When we fought in the sports festival, you had an amazing quirk. I wasn't sure if I could tell him about One for All, so I didn't. I can't use it anymore. It breaks my bones and I'm in danger of permanent paralysis in my arms if I keep using it. It was the truth, just not all of it. I've never heard of a quirk that could ruin a person's body like that. Did it just manifest too quickly? I didn't want to answer him since his quirk was brainwashing, which he could use to force me to tell the truth. Thankfully, the bell rang and I was saved. I just shrugged and went to pick up my notebook. It was a short, yet lonely walk home alone from the station. Uraraka had texted me that their classes would run long today, so I should just go home without them. I was all alone with my thoughts. I was holding my notebook in my hands, ready to throw it out into the nearest trash pile on the sidewalk, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. It had become a part of me that was inseparable. It was stupid. I'm home, I announced half-heartedly as I entered me and my mom's apartment. My mom came around the corner with a wide smile. "Did you have a good day at school, sweetie?" I smiled and lied, saying that it was just another day. I slipped off my shoes and gave my mom a hug. She really thought I was okay. Half of me wanted her to see through all the lies I told and tell me everything would be fine. Lying to my mom made me feel sick. We ate supper while she told me how her day went. She asked about mine and I said that it went great. She made sure that I was doing okay, mentally that is. Ever since my imprisonment, Mom had been watching my every movement, just in case I would break down from the memories and trauma I went through. That usually happened at 3 o'clock in the morning after a nightmare. The first few nights, I had women her up with my screaming, so I trained myself to stop it. I didn't want to bother her more than I was already. I knew that it was unfair to lie to her, but I didn't want to see her so worried about me anymore. That night, like any other night, I woke up in a cold sweat, breathing heavily, almost as if my throat was being blocked. I sobbed silently into my blankets and slowly began to calm myself down. The nightmares, which I thought would get better with time, were getting worse and more vivid. I could almost feel my bones shattering and the alcohol being poured onto my torn and bloodied skin. After half an hour, I finally calmed myself down. I just want all of this to go away. I wanted to be a hero. I didn't want to paralyze my arms. My arms. They would never be the same again. Even though the doctor had an amazing quirk, the constant breaking of my bones have left them scarred and crooked. I knew people looked at the weirdly when they thought I wasn't paying attention. They whispered how I must be suicidal behind my back when they think I can't hear them. I just wanted to be a hero. Why was I given such false hope from All Might? If it wasn't for All Might, I smacked myself. None of this was All Might's fault. This was mine. If I had been stronger, if I had gotten a hold of my powers sooner, if I had what it took to be a real hero, I wouldn't have been captured. It was so simple. I wasn't meant to be a hero. What a stupid lie I was living. It was all just a fantasy from the beginning. There was no way a little, quirkless, loser could ever be a hero like All Might. 𝗀𝐻𝐿 was right. Everyone was right. Midoriya Izuku, would never ever be a hero. I stared at the test that was just handed back to me. I couldn't believe the grade that I was given and the note "See me after class" with 2 lines under it. My world was falling out from under me. I couldn't do this anymore. Why was so much expected from me? Why was the world making sure everything I did ended up a failure? I went up to ectoplasm after class. Is everything okay, Midoriya? In the hero course, you were in the top 10 of your class, but now you're right at the bottom. Is something bothering you? I guess I'm still recovering. Don't worry, I'll try super hard to get my grades back up for the next test. A fake smile along with the lie. I didn't like the way I was living. I wanted out. I wanted to crawl into bed and never cone out again. I didn't want to face the world and least of all, my former classmates. It was lunch and I was dreading it. Not only did I hate the sight of food, but the sight of 𝗧𝗧𝗃 and 𝐸𝐸 was worse. They smiled at me and talked to me, but it was getting on my nerves. I dragged myself to lunch and sat by my friends. Things started off normal, but it wasn't long before they noticed that I wasn't touching my food. Is everything alright, Deku? 𝗧𝗧𝗃 asked, seeming genuinely concerned. Have you been eating, Midoriya? 𝐸𝐸 asked. You're looking a bit sick. I'm fine, I said, even though it was painfully obvious that something was wrong. My friends stopped eating and looked at me, as if inspecting a science experiment. It made me very uncomfortable. It was almost like they were reading my thoughts and knew how much I wasn't fine. I stood up suddenly to leave. Deku, I need some air. I'll catch up with you guys later. I rushed out of the lunchroom to the doors that lead to outside. I was breathing heavily, but I kept running. I wasn't watching where I was going until I smacking into something. I looked up to see that something had been Todoroki. Sorry, Todoroki-kun. A wide smile spread across his lips. Now that wasn't like him at all. I suddenly froze, knowing something was definitely wrong here. I backed up slowly, but he grabbed me by the tie. Hello, little Izuku. My eyes widened. The only one who ever called me that was. Did you miss me? Toga said with a smile, keeping her Todoroki guise on since other students were around us. How did you? My heart was racing 1,000,000 miles a minute. She held up Todoroki's student ID badge. We figured out how to sneak into UA when we uses this trick with you. We planted your old ID in your costume so the alarms wouldn't go off. But how did you get? A wicked smile stretched across the mimic's face. Little 𝗏𝗏𝗏 had to miss class today. He had a nasty head cold. I was starting to hyperventilate. I thought I was safe. I thought that the business with the villains were all behind me. Now here was WhatIf my tormentors, coming to either kill me or take me back. I let go. I'm useless to you now. Useless? Toga asked. Then, a smile ripped across Todoroki's face. Never, little Izuku. You're more valuable to us than ever before. You're going to be our little spy. You're going to help us take down the new generation of heroes. And if you refuse, let's just say that we know where you live. We have access to where your classmates live. We know about All Might and his diminishing power. Her hand tightened on my tie. And we know how to kill them all. I felt tears building up. Please don't make me. My voice was barely a whisper. I don't want to. I don't want dashed smack. No one cares. All we care about is how you do your job. If you want proof, we'll come to your house tonight and we'll be wanting some information. She dropped me and I fell backwards, quickly crawling away from her as fast as I could. She grabbed a fistful of my hair. And no excuses. I sat in shock for a few seconds before everything clicked. That was Toga. She morphed herself into Todoroki, which means she got his BLD somehow. The League of Villains wanted me back, this time as a spy. I had just been dropped into hell once again. Once I was done processing the information, I screamed. I didn't want to go back. They would hurt me. They would hurt my friends. They knew where I lived. My mom. They could kill my mom. The next thing I knew, I was waking up on a bed in the UA nurse's office. 𝗧𝗧𝗃 and 𝐸𝐸 were above me. Is he waking up? Deku, can you hear me? I nodded slightly, unsure of what had happened. Then it hit me. I shot up in bed. Toga. Midoriya. Calm down. Ida was forcing me to lie down. We found you having a panic attack. Was it triggered by a memory? It was dash. I suddenly stopped. They knew where my mom lived. Just a daydream. I'm okay now. Have you been getting enough sleep, Deku? 𝗀𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 asked, concern obvious in her eyes. I shook my head. And my nightmares have been keeping me up, sometimes. I hoped that last bit would make it seem like less of a deal. If they're really that bad, you should have come and talked to me. Recovery girl shoved a small bag of pills into my hands. These will help you fall into a deeper and hopefully dreamless sleep. If you're having any other problems, feel free to talk to me. I nodded and thanked her before leaving school for the day. 𝗀𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 walked me home, since Ida was busy with family stuff that night. I guess I'll see you around, Deku. 𝗀𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 said with a smile. I returned it. Thanks. You too. Are you sure you're really okay? I mean, a panic attack is a big deal, isn't it? I shrugged. I've had worse. We stood in an awkward silence before I waved to her. Thanks a bunch, 𝗀𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘. I'll see you at... Yep. Later, Deh. I knew my lie was becoming apparent and that it would soon shatter one day so that everyone could see my real emotions. I wasn't ready for that just yet. I wanted to stay in this shell where everything was kept secret and no one would see the truth. The lie I was living was getting old, very fast. I sat anxiously in bed. Toga said that they would come and make me spill information. That would make me a traitor. They wanted to break me. If I refused, they wouldn't only hurt me, but my family and friends as well. I knew the heroes would stop them eventually, but how many innocents would die before the massacre was over? There was a knock at my door and I jumped. Izuku. It was just Mom. Did you take the medicine that recovery girl gave you? Why, Mom? But, do you need me to get you anything? When I explained to my mom that the pills were so that I wouldn't have nightmares, she went into overprotective mode. She looked disappointed when she was told I was still having nightmares. She thought it was her fault because she didn't hear me waking up in the middle of the night anymore. I told her that it wasn't her fault and that they were getting less frequent and less vivid, although that was a straight-out lie to her face. I also lied when I said I took the pill. It was sitting on my side table. I was going to take it after the villains visited me. Toga could have just been trying to scare me, but I didn't want to get caught by the villains in my sleep. No thanks, Mom. Good night. Good night, Izuku. I heard her walk into her room and saw the hallway light turn off. I breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't want Mom to get caught up in any of this. I sat deathly still for about 15 minutes after that before there was a knock on my window. The sudden noise made me jump. My heart was racing a million miles a minute. I slowly turned to see Shigaraki waiting at the window. He pointed down, as if saying, "Open the window, you useless pawn." I swallowed my fear and slowly got up from bed. I couldn't think clearly and my body had gone on autopilot. I wanted to cry, but I would be hit if I did. With shaking hands, I slid up the window and took a step back to let the villains in. There were 3 in total. Shigaraki, Toga, and Dabi. I felt a lump in my throat, but I wouldn't let the sob out. I assume you heard all the details from Toga. Shigaraki said. He wasn't loud, but his voice still made me shake and my heart thump loudly. I wanted out. I didn't want to be here. I managed to nod my head. I wasn't sure if they would let me talk or not. Dabi was here and he seemed to hate it when I talked the most. I wasn't going to risk it. Cough it up, Midoriya. I already had the notebook in my hand. I wasn't ready to give them my most recent one, so I gave them a notebook full of more minor heroes. I would delay giving them my last one with all of my classmates for as long as possible. I didn't want to become the villain here. Shigaraki flipped through the notebook. Not bad, but I know what you're planning. You won't be able to protect your classmates forever. We'll be back in a week, and if you don't give up the notebook, we're taking you back and killing everyone you care about. Wait. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't talk back to them. But I was already halfway there. I don't have information on all my classmates. Well, you'd better be ready by next week. Or else. Toga. Toga drew a knife from her pocket and walked over to me. She slit my arm, then collected my BLD in a test tube. I winced, but it was hardly the pain I was used to. I think you understand what we need your BLD for. With Toga's quirk, we could ruin your life forever. I gulped, knowing that they weren't bluffing. If I screwed this up, my life would be ruined. Much sooner than I thought, the villains left. I collapsed onto my bed and let myself cry. At school the next day, everyone was talking about Todoroki's disappearance. Most thought that he was just sick, but I knew he must have gotten hurt when Toga took his BLD. She probably knocked him out so he wouldn't struggle. He should be back in a few days, but blows to the head can be pretty serious. I couldn't focus on my schoolwork for the entire day because of the visit from the League of Villains the night before. I hadn't gotten much sleep and I had plenty of stress on my head. It was pretty obvious that 𝗧𝗏 and Iida thought something was wrong with me since they kept asking me if I needed to go to see Recovery Girl. Midoriya. I hadn't even realized that I had been spacing out. This is the third time this PRD. Please pay attention. Why, sir? You look like you didn't sleep a wink last night. 𝗧𝗏 was walking me to the bus station. Iida was busy with a meeting for class presidents, but 𝗧𝗏 was, as usually, happy to go out of her way to make sure I wasn't lonely on my way home. I wasn't sure if I liked it or not, since it was nice having company, but it also made me feel like a burden, making her go out of the way for me like this. Make sure you get plenty of sleep tonight, okay? And if you ever need someone to talk to, I'll always be willing. She beamed at me and it made me want to smile too. Hey, sure. I'll make sure to do that. Thanks, 𝗧𝗏. No problem, Deku. That night, I paced around my room, waiting for the villains to show up. I just wanted to get this over with. I'd collected minimum data on a few of the weaker kids in general studies and, though I knew what Shigaraki wanted, I wasn't going to hand him my precious notebook with information on my former classmates. I heard the window slide open and my heart started to P&D. He's gonna hurt me. He's gonna hurt me. Well. Shigaraki's voice was quiet, but it made me shake like a leaf. I was already holding the notebook in my hand. I was shaking so bad that I almost dropped it a couple times before handing it to the villain. Slowly, Shigaraki opened the notebook. A minute passed, then another. Then one more. What is this CRP? I winced. He used his quirk to turn the notebook to duet before grabbing me by the front of the shirt. Did you really think I would take that? There's nothing helpful in there. I need information on the little hero eggs, not the useless general studies brats. I am sorry. I felt tears building up in my eyes. He was gonna beat the CRP out of me. A hand wound its way in my hair and jerked up. I yelped in pain. Shut up. Wouldn't want to wake Mama up, do we? I cried silently in fear as I looked up at the glare that Shigaraki gave me. What are your orders? T to get I information on the kids F from class 1A, good. Now, you'd better give me that information tomorrow, or your mom might have a little accident. I felt like crying. It was one thing to hurt me, but to threaten an innocent, especially my mom, who wouldn't give in. I nodded slowly. Okay. Good answer. Just as soon as he had come, Shigaraki was gone. I knew that if I did this, I would be betraying the heroes that I'd looked up to for my whole life, but I didn't know how to get out of this one. There was always All Might, but if Shigaraki found out that I told someone, the people I loved would be in danger. I curled up onto my bed and started to sob. I stared at the stupid notebook in my hands. I wanted to throw it off a cliff if it meant that I didn't have to hand it over to the Villain Alliance. Who knows what they could do with such valuable information? Midoriya. Someone was tapping on my shoulder. I hadn't learned the names of all my classmates, but the one who sat behind me was a girl named Kira, or at least that's what everyone called her. She's from America and is here at UA as an exchange student. Her quirk was that she could shapeshift. Not into animals, only changing her appearance. A cool quirk, but not useful for a hero. She pointed past me. The student in front of me was trying to hand papers back. I flushed before taking them and passing them back. I hadn't been able to focus on school all day. I kept dropping things and messing up words and jumping at everything. Eventually, 𝗀𝗃 asked me if my behavior had to do with any PTSD that I was having since I was kidnapped. I lied and told him that was probably it, then asked if I could go outside for some fresh air. I wondered if I could handle waiting until Shigaraki came to retrieve what he wanted. This whole situation was stressing me out. Going outside helped me sort my thoughts out a little and helped to calm me to the point where I wasn't on the verge of a panic attack. Right before I was about to go back inside, a hand grabbed me by the shoulder. "You're Midoriya, right?" "Yeah, please." The boy was at least a head taller than me and had to be an upperclassman. He had two friends backing him up, both showing off their quirks, hardening, and one had falcon wings on his back. The person who had grabbed me didn't look like anything special, but he had to have some sort of quirk. "Huh, so you're the villain everyone's been talking about." That comment caught me off guard. "What? The kid who broke in and almost killed a student. That's you, right?" "You. I hear that you're also quirkless." "Who told you that?" "It's strange, though," the boy continued. Through our conversation, he was slowly backing me into a wall. "I hear you used to be a part of the hero course. Is that right?" "Yeah. It's complicated. I'm not quirkless." "Midoriya. I recognize that name. Probably from the sports festival." He slammed his hand against the wall, trapping me in a corner I hadn't even realized that I'd gotten myself into. The festival where the second and third years should have been the center of attention. My heart was pounding. Nobody had bullied me since I came to UA, so this had caught me off guard. "I'm sorry." I was cut off when the kid grabbed my neck. "Shut up, Class 1A twerp. Do you need a lesson from your senpai about staying where you belong?" Just let me get back to class." I winced as he used his quirk to scare me. "You see this? This is why I'm gonna be a hero. My quirk's strength plus." He easily punched a hole into the wall behind me. "You're in general studies, right? Stop acting all high and mighty and remember your place." I thought that was it and he would leave me alone, but instead, he spotted the notebook in my hand. Without hesitating, he grabbed the notebook from my hands. "Hey, that's mine. Give it back." I tried to jump and grab my notebook which he was holding over my head in a teasing way, but he shoved me to the ground easily. "What do we have here? Looks to me like you're either a total creep." He smiled and rose an eyebrow. "Or some kind of villain." "No. It's just a hobby. Give me my notebook back." I jumped for the notebook but he threw it to the boy with hardening abilities, who then threw it to the boy with wings. I tried to get it back from the falcon boy, but he flew high above M head. Before my eyes, he began to rip the notebook apart before my eyes. Stop that. That notebook would save Mom. It would keep her safe. They couldn't do this to me. I needed that notebook. Without thinking, I used one for all. I broke both of my legs while jumping into the air, and although I didn't break my arm hitting the kid, I knew that the punch still hurt. He hadn't been too far up, so the fall wasn't that bad, but it jarred my broken bones. What the heck kind of quirk was that? The winged guy asked, holding onto his cheek. I had knocked him out of the air and made him drop my notebook. The punch was just enough to scare them all off, but now I was regretting my impulsive reaction. I was stranded outside of the school building with 2 broken legs and a throbbing arm. I started to crawl my way towards my fallen notebook, but someone came and picked it up. "I thought you weren't supposed to use your quirk anymore, Midoriya-kun." I looked up to see Todoroki, head wrapped in a bandage and a healing black eye. "Todoroki-kun. I saw those guys harassing you. I would have helped out, but they had run off before I could get here." He walked over to me. "That looks pretty bad. I'll go get Recovery Girl." He set down my notebook by me before running off go get help. I looked down at my ruined notebook. Shigaraki wasn't going to be happy with this. Why couldn't my life go right at least once? It was about 5 or so minutes until Recovery Girl's robots picked me up to take me to the medical wing. Todoroki was there too, saying he would be a witness that I was using my quirk for self-defense and not for anything else. Either way, I knew Recovery Girl was not going to be happy with this. At least I broke my legs and not my arms this time. When the door opened, Recovery Girl was talking to someone. I was still in a lot of pain, so I didn't realize who the man was right away, but when I finally focused my eyes on him, my brain flashed with horrible memories. "Oh, Midoriya. I'm so sorry," the doctor from my time with the League of Villains said, wringing his hands together. "My presence probably upsets you. I'll get going." "Don't leave," Recovery Girl said. I want this boy to get over what happened, and I want you to stop feeling guilty for what you did. I'll patch up Midoriya, and you explain to the boy that you're sorry. But before that, Recovery Girl glared at me. Why are your legs broken? I winced and was about to speak up when Todoroki beat me to it. Some second or third years were harassing him. He did I out of defense. Recovery Girl still shook her head. Well, it doesn't matter now. You'd better stay here the rest of the school day so you can feel better. I nodded, then turned my attention to Todoroki. You can get to class if you want. I'm fine. Todoroki just nodded before walking off. After Recovery Girl had fixed me up, she left me with the doctor, saying that she had business to do. The two of us sat in awkward silence for a few minutes before the doctor spoke up. Look, it's obvious that I'm making you uncomfortable by being here. I'll just dash. What were you and Recovery Girl talking about? Oh, we were talking about your condition. Condition? Did he mean my quirk? She wanted to know what the villains did to you, mentally and physical. That's it? I nodded. Oh, was that it? Couldn't you have just sent an email or called her? I also wanted to make sure you were okay, Izuku. I shivered. Why did he use my given name? I slowly look up as the mask of the doctor faded and Toga appeared. She had used the same trick on me, but it still surprised me. Could I trust no one? Hello, little Izuku. Looks like you're in pain right now. I have just the thing for that. She took a syringe out of her pocket. I almost started hyperventilating at the sight of it. This'll just put you to sleep for a bit, okay? Shigaraki wants to talk to you. I couldn't struggle before she plunges the needle in between my fingers, somewhere Recovery Girl wouldn't notice, and I almost immediately started to drift off. I saw Toga change back to the doctor before saying, Recovery Girl, the poor boy was so tired, drifted right off. Then I was out like a light. I woke up with my head pounding. Where was I? It was so dark and damp. Images of my room from the league flashes through my mind. With a shaking hand, I felt what was under me. It was a pile of scratchy blankets. My heart stopped. It couldn't be. I tried to stand up, but my head hit the low ceiling. I desperately reached out my hands, but my arms barely could stretch out in this tiny room. Let me out. I screamed, trying to open my door, which had never been locked before now. Bring me back to you right now. I was crying because I was so scared. I didn't want to be here. I wanted to go home. I didn't want the villains to brainwash MS again. Out of panic, I screamed. I was cut off by a string of swear words and a shut up. From Twice, a villain which hadn't done much to me in the past, but I was familiar with nonetheless. The door opened, and there was the mask-wearing man. He had a severe case of split personality disorder and was difficult to have a conversation with. Get out here, kid. Shigaraki wants to welcome you back. It wouldn't have been hard to get away from Twice. If you take his mask off, he breaks down. However, I knew this base was different from the last one, but very similar. I didn't know where the exit was. It would have been smarter to have Twice BLD me as he lead me through the hallway, although the turns weren't too complicated. Right, left, left. The base probably wasn't too big, which would most likely make finding the exit easier. Twice took me into a room where the other members of the Villain Alliance were waiting for me. Even with the hand covering his face, I could tell that Shigaraki was annoyed. Twice took me right in front of Shigaraki. There was an awkward silence before, without warning, Shigaraki's hand came and smacked me across the face with enough force to knock me off my feet. Think you could get away that easily, Izuku? Did you think that the school could protect you? Tears slipped out of my eyes before I could stop them. I was scared and the hit was hard enough to bruise. Do you need me to teach you a lesson? He grabbed me by the front of my shirt. I shook my head, but he hit me again, on the other side of my face this time. I could feel it again. A few weeks without constant pain, and I could feel everything again. It hurt and I didn't like it. Because of you, we had to move. Because of you, we have to stay in hiding. Do you know where we are? I shook my head. He tightened his grip on my shirt. We've moved from city to find a place to lie low, and we finally found one in Osaka. My eyes widened. But that's miles away from Dash. Shigaraki grabbed me by the throat. Yeah, and keeping my quiet all the way here was a challenge. So shut up and do as I say, got it? I nodded and he let me go. I couldn't help the sobs coming from my throat. I fell to my knees. Not again, not again, not again, not again, not again, not again. Take the brat downstairs and hook him up to the machine. Leave him there until you've wiped his memory clean, or he passes out, whichever happens first. Twice grabbed me by the arm and hauled me to my feet. Please don't. I don't want to dash, Shigaraki interrupted my sentence with a hard punch to the gut. It packed a blow that was enough to knock me off my feet and into the nearest wall. Twice had the foresight to let me go when he saw Shigaraki coming. Shut up. No one here cares if you don't want to. Your quirk may be useless to us, but you're an expert marksman. We want to take advantage of that and use you. Got it? We'll do whatever we need to do if it means we get to use you. You're not gonna turn on us this time. Twice grabbed me again before I could say anything stupid again. You know, you should be more careful around him. Who cares? The kid can do whatever he wants. But Shigaraki's so mean. Twice continued to argue with himself, but I tuned him out. I had to escape before I lost my memories again. Both sides of my face were bruising and my stomach felt like it had been hit by a train, but I was still desperately looking for an exit. Before I saw anything obvious, I was being pulled downstairs. I tried to fight back, but Twice hit me over the head, so I stopped. I was afraid I would get a concussion with all these blows to the head. The basement was a big empty space with a single machine in the middle of the room. I knew it too well. I started to fight back again, but Twice put me in a headlock and dragged me towards the machine. I don't want to. Let go. What a pain. Twice slammed me into the chair and locked my arms in place. The machine started immediately. It hurt. I felt like my very life was being 𝗧𝗘𝗍𝗘 out of me. All I could do was scream for help. All might. I was crying and my throat was sore. Help. Help me. It's happening again. My mind kept screaming at me as I fought to stay awake against the pain I was feeling at the moment. I didn't want to give Shigaraki the satisfaction of seeing me crack under the pressure. The problem was I could already feel myself forgetting things. I hadn't fully recovered all my memories after I was saved by All Might, little things like my childhood and names, but I could already feel things that I knew were important slipping away. I can't forget who I am. My brain latched onto a face. That's all I needed to remember. I just had to think of 𝗀𝗏𝗏. Then I wouldn't lose my mind. She had always been so nice to me and supported my dream. I had to at least remember her. More things were slipping away. 𝗀𝗏𝗏. 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 All Might. Enemy. 𝗀𝗏𝗏. You? My eyes popped open. No. Just give it up. I jumped. Dabi was standing next to me. The pain had stopped for the moment. It'll be easier if you stop trying to remember things. I shook my head. But she's my friend. I don't want to forget her. I think you just did, Dabi said. And no, I didn't. Oh yeah. Dabi leaned down so he was face to face with me. What's her name? Yura. I struggled for a minute before I remembered at least one part. Ochako. Calling a girl by her given name. How rude. He leaned over the machine and turned it on again. Best to forget her name altogether. Wait, no arg. The pain was worse this time. It almost instantly knocked me out. When I came to, I heard two people arguing. Is a delicate process. You can't go from 1 to 100 that fast. So what if he loses a few brain cells? Isn't that the point? You're going to make him brain dead if you go too fast. That's why it took so long last time. Idiot. Shoo, Lil, Izuku's awake. Came a different voice, a female this time. 3 figures loomed above me. I shrunk away, but I was strapped down. There was no way to escape. What's your name? Izuku Midoriya. How old are you? 16. When's your birthday? I don't know. Who am I? Shigaraki Tamura. Where did you go to school? UA High. He still knows. Shigaraki turned to the man beside him. Turn on the machine again. W8. Please. Please don't. It hurt so much. Tamura, Can I take him for a little bit? I want to ask him questions too. The girl smiled. She had BLD in her teeth. And I want him to try what I cooked for him. I worked really HRD on it. Not now, Toga, Shigaraki said in a gruff voice. But he looks so hungry. Not now, Shigaraki yelled. Besides, he would just puke up whatever you have him. He can eat after he's on our side. Dabi, turn it on. Please don't. I don't want it. It hurts. I was crying, but I didn't care. Anything to stop the pain. Deal with it. Then he flipped the SWH and I was back to being in a world of pain. I hadn't been unstrapped from the chair for 2 days. Toga would eat with me, though I was usually in too much pain to enjoy the food. She would ask me to try her new creations. I didn't want to know what she fed me, knowing her personality and quirk. I just ate and told her it was good. It made her squeal, which would have weirded me out in any other situation, but I was in too much pain to care. I was half conscious when Shigaraki was suddenly looming over me. Are you done resisting? I tried to talk back, but my tongue felt heavy and I couldn't get the words around it. I simply shook my head as much as I could manage. The next thing I knew, I felt a blunt hit to my stomach. It was Shigaraki's fist. I let a small grunt of pain escape my lips. My body was so battered and it was all his fault. It'll stop. Remember, back before you ran away. I managed to get out of my mouth. He only hit you because you deserved it. Shigaraki spat. You were a brat who needed to be taught discipline. We wouldn't do this if you weren't so stubborn, Izuku. The sound of my name from his lips made me shudder. Stop. I won't stop until you either submit or die. Either one that comes first. Just. I thought a hero never gives up. I whimpered. A hero. My voice cracked. Tears were coming down my face. Just a quirk. Sir. All Might really shouldn't have given you false hope. Shigaraki patted my shoulder. But I know how useless you are and I still decided to take you in. I whimpered again. Captured. Yes, but we got you away from the people who would just laugh at you. All Might replaced you. How long were you gone for? 3 months. That's way too soon to replace someone. We risked our necks to get a hold of you. We could have been caught and thrown in jail. Shigaraki tightened his grip on my shoulder, careful not to use all 5 of his fingers. What do you think you should say to that? Hank. I asked quietly, barely above a whisper. What was that? Shigaraki asked, though I knew he heard those words. Thank you, I said with everything I could muster. The heroes might have thrown you away, but we at the League haven't. You're not useless to us. You're a good shot and if need be, good bait for those heroes who wronged you. They won't kill you. I simply nodded. Will you stop hurting me if I join you? Shigaraki's words had gotten to me and I was in too much pain to think clearly about my decision. If you join us, there's no backing out, got it? I nodded weakly. Just don't brainwash me, please. We won't have to this time. However, Ichi placed his hand on the straps holding me down. If you betray us, you know what'll happen to you. I nodded, shaking the dust that used to be my bonds off of me. I stood up, but my legs couldn't hold me up. I stumbled into the table where Shigaraki kept his torture weapons. I winced as I slit myself with one of the knives, but I didn't really feel the pain. What's a little more lost BLD? Shigaraki called in Toga and she brought me to the bar, where she took out a first aid kit. We lost our doctor, so you're gonna have to heal naturally this time. She seemed too excited. She took my arm and without even cleaning the wound, put a band-aid over it. Toga, I'll take it from here, Kurohige said from behind the bar counter. Toga pouted, but let the man take care of me, properly this time. I'm glad you saw reason, Midoriya. I'm sorry about the way you were treated. I didn't answer him. My throat was too dry. He just finished wrapping his arm when Twice came into the room. Mist, get me a drink. Oh, so you're alive, kid. You part of our group. I don't think you were tortured enough. It's good to have you. He held out his hand. I was hesitant to take it, but I mustered up the courage and did so. Twice just smiled and crushed my hand. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 placed a glass of water and a plate of food in front of me. I chugged the water, then scarfed down the food. It was way better than what Toga had given me. Soon after I had finished the meal, I saw it again way too soon. I puked it up on the bar floor, holding my stomach as tears leaked out of my eyes. Even after my stomach had rejected the food, I was still left dry heaving. 𝗀𝗏, I think you ate too fast. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 said. You haven't had proper nutrients in a few days, so that meal might have been a little too heavy. He began to wipe up the mess. I'll give you something your stomach can handle. I nodded and wiped the puke off my chin. I didn't feel like eating anymore. As I sipped on a glass of water, 𝗧𝗫 and 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 joined everyone else in the bar. I didn't realize it, but when they walked into the room, a shiver went down my spine. I knew I'd never be comfortable with them since they'd put me through so much pain. 𝗧𝗫 came over to me and I tried to shrink. My eyes went to the floor, unable to look him in the eyes. So, you finally cracked. I winces and a sob escaped my lips. I didn't know why I was crying. Tears leaked out of my eyes. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was because I realized what I had agreed to. I wanted to be dead. Death was better than being a villain. My one and only dream had been crushed out of me. If only I'd been as strong as All Might. If only I had learned to control my powers. Back off, 𝗧𝗫, 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 said. Don't hurt him unless you have to. We don't want him running back to the heroes. The heroes who give false hope. The liars who tell people everything will be okay, when it's obvious that death is imminent. 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 ran a hand through my hair. But we don't lie. No false hope. We know that Izuku here might have been an enemy in the past, but let's put it behind us. Let's give the quirkless boy, who everyone else threw aside, a purpose. I was getting used to my new daily schedule. Wake up, get ready, eat breakfast, go to target practice with 𝗧𝗫, eat lunch, hand-to-hand combat training with Toga, break, survival training with 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘, supper, learning essential math and Japanese from 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘, and finally bed. Twice would help me improve some other training aspects like how to fight with weapons other than a gun and knife. The training was exhausting and the hours were long, but I had to be better. Since I didn't have a quirk anymore, I was going to have to rely solely on my skills. Every day I would see improvement, getting 3 bullseyes instead of 2, being able to knock Toga off balance, not getting hit by 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 during survival training once. It was slow, but with my time at UA under my belt, no matter how short it was, I wasn't too bad with this training. I got Saturdays and Wednesdays off to rest, both mentally and physically. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 brought me books to read and gave me some of the old games that 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 had finished on old-school handheld devices. This kept my mind off things and, more importantly, out of the league's way. Toga still tried to flirt with me, but I had learned to ignore it. I just wasn't interested in her that way. I would, however, accept when she offered to eat with me. I got lonely easily, and I felt that if I talked to Toga, we would build. As a team, I still had a fuzzy feeling at the back of my head, like what I was doing was wrong. I didn't want to be here, but I felt like the villains were teaching me better than the heroes ever had. Eventually, the bad feeling went away. I was still terrified of 𝗧𝗫. Someone else, usually Toga or 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘, would sit through our training session, just in case he tried to beat me without reason. The first time he went to hit me, I practically had a panic attack. 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 had the same effect, since he had been the one to torture me the worst, but since most of it was a blur, I didn't freak out so much. 𝗧𝗫's torture had left marks, both physical and mental. My arms are horribly scarred from the multiple fractures from training and even some from 𝗧𝗫 himself. He had pushed me close to paralysis, several times, and had been the one who made me scared to talk whenever he entered the room. Eyes up, 𝗧𝗫 snapped. I willed myself to look up to see the targets. I had a gun in my hand. Slowly I lifted my arm. My confidence was shrinking under 𝗧𝗫's glare. I took a few deep breaths, then steadied my arm. Left, right, center. Bent, bent, bent. The noise echoed in my ears. I looked to that each target had been hit, dead center. Before I could smile, 𝗧𝗫 snapped. Behind you. Again. I spun and another 3 bullets. Bent, bent, bent. Dead center. ― I guess we'll have to start with moving targets tomorrow. I'll let you off early today. I bowed to him, like he told me to, and left for my room. It was still around an hour to lunch, so I decided to take a nap. I guess that wasn't such a good idea. Usually, during the night, I was too tired to dream. The constant training sapped my energy and I was in a dreamless sleep before my head hit the pillow. But this time, it was different. I was standing in an alleyway with my hero suit on. I looked down at my getup. What a fanboy, I muttered. Out of curiosity, I decided to charge up one for all. It worked. I went towards the wall, and decides to see if I could control the power in my dream. With all the force I could muster, I punched the wall. Although I did severe damage to the alleyway, I looked down to see my arm in one piece. It made me smile. Finally! Suddenly, there was a loud bang. It came from behind me. I spun around to see the source. Before I could, there was a pain in my side. I looked down to see blood staining my costume red. I stumbled back and fell on my butt. The figure with the gun was getting closer. I couldn't make them out, since they were silhouetted by the setting sun and the loss of blood was making me dizzy. The person finally came close enough so I could maim out who it was. It was someone who I knew. My mind searched for her name. She loaded the gun and walked to me, pressing it against my forehead. Right before she pulled the trigger, a name popped into my head. ― The gun went off, but I didn't feel any pain. I opened my eyes and I was the one holding the gun. I looked down at ―. Her blood and brains were splattered over the ruined wall and there was a distinct bullet wound in her side. I looked down. I wasn't wearing my hero suit anymore and there was no more blood. Instead, I was wearing the suit the villains had made me. There were a few cries from behind me. I looked over my shoulder to see the Class 1A. They looked horrified. I don't know why I did it, but I simply gave them a sickly smile. Oopsies. I jolted awake. I could feel the sweat cooling. It had felt real. I looked down at me arm. It was still fine, but what if I had accidentally used one for all in my sleep? I could paralyze myself. And ―. I wouldn't actually kill her. I wouldn't kill anyone I knew. I don't think I could live with myself if I did. The horrified looks from my classmates and the blood was ingrained in my brain. For the rest of the day, I couldn't focus on anything. ― eventually cut our lesson short so I could tell him what was wrong. I explained my dream, and he simply nodded. You're going to have to prepare to kill whoever we need you to kill, Izuku. I shivered. Oh, even though the heroes had never really believed in me, even though society had tossed me aside to fend for myself, even though All Might had given me a power only to hurt me, I didn't know if I could kill them. Not my friends, but were they my friends? No one stopped me from leaving Class 1A. I bet no one even cared that I was stuck in Class 1C. Everyone probably forgot about me by now. I'm the one who won't let it go. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Izuku. I froze. Sorry. I'm okay. Maybe you should get some rest, Dash. No way. I bit my lip. I didn't mean to snap at him. I mean. Was the nightmare really so bad that you can't sleep? I shrugged. I don't know. I haven't had a dream since I came here, but now. If you're having trouble with nightmares, I can give you something tonight. I nodded. That'd be nice. After weeks of training, it was time that the villains were launching an attack. It was going to be a simple job, a kidnapping. I wasn't sure why they were capturing someone, but it wasn't my place to know. My job was to stay back with ― to provide vital information in case a hero showed up. Shigaraki and the rest of the villains were dropped off where I assumed the operation would take place, while ― took me to the top of a building where I could still see what was going on. Keep your eyes open, ― said. Tamura would nor be happy if you failed your first mission. I nodded and took the binoculars out of my pocket. I switched on night vision and looked around for any signs of a hero. I really hoped that no one would show up. I didn't have a gun strapped to my hip just for decoration. After about 20 minutes, Shigaraki's voice came through a communicator in my ear. We've got him. Come and get us. I don't know what I was expecting. Something exciting maybe. I should have known it was small scale when Dabi said he didn't want to waste time on this. Everything seemed too fast and simple. Did crimes really go so unnoticed? Before I knew it, we were back home. When did I start calling this home? Right now, I guess. The man we captures looked terrified, and I made the mistake of looking him in the eyes. He looked terrified, and I felt horrible about being a part of this operation. Shigaraki began to drag him away before I could ask any questions. I turned to 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘, but he simply said, "This doesn't concern you." I swallowed and nodded. I didn't think that I wanted to know. Life continued as I began to accept my situation more and more each day. Life at the bar was a little intense and shady, but little by little, each of the villains began to accept me as part of their group. I didn't fully trust Dabi or Shigaraki yet, but I was starting to put more trust in everyone. Training got easier with each day, and I could go out more often. Eventually, Shigaraki let me go out whenever I wanted. I just had to make sure no one would recognize me. I usually hid my identity by wearing a hoodie and face mask. I didn't do much while I was out, but just taking a walk was enough for me. It was September when I ran into trouble. I was out on a walk when I hears a familiar voice. "Get out of the way." I was tackled to the ground by someone smaller than me. I felt my hood slip off my head, and there was blood running down my face where it had scraped across the pavement. I looked up to see a villain with some sort of acid quirk causing havoc. He looked sudden. Was coming my way. "You have to get out of." There was a gasp. Deku. I froze and looked at the person who had tackled me. To us. I couldn't grasp her name. She was a friend from UA. I had tried to put those days behind me. The girl's eyes were filling with tears. Alive. My eyes widened. I quickly put my hood over my head and began to run. I heard a distant, "𝗀𝗚𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘. Get back here." The voice was also familiar. "Froppy. It's Deku." I ran as fast as I could. I didn't know where I was. I couldn't see the road to the bar. My hood kept falling off and tears were leaking. I want to go home. I don't want to hear any more lies. I'm actually useful to the League. I'm just a liability to the heroes. When I suddenly became aware of my surroundings, I was in an unfamiliar alley. My breathing was heavy and I was lost. I reached into my pocket where my phone was supposed to be. It must have fallen out of my pocket. It was a good thing 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 had made sure I didn't have anything personal except his number on there. I took deep breath and began to look around. I tried to remember where I was before the attack. Was I near the bar? 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 always told me to stay close. How far did I run? I really didn't want to risk getting caught by 𝗀𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘. Is that what the girl had called her? The girl named Froppy. I stubbornly willed away my anxiety before taking a step out of the alley. If I hurried, I could get home before I was found. I looked around carefully before walking out of my hiding spot. Walk normally. Don't act suspicious. Eventually, I found a place I recognized. I mapped out the quickest route in my head to the bar and started to run home. I just wanted to be off the streets. I got sloppy. My hopes got in front of what was ahead of me. My one thought of gotta get home dampened my vision. Before I knew it, I ran into the last person I wanted to see. 𝗀𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘. Deku. I gasped and tried to step back. I ended up falling on my butt. I was shaking. Get away fr from me. Deku. What's wrong? She tried to put a hand on my shoulder. Get away. I could feel myself crying, but I didn't know why. This hero shouldn't scare me so much. She wasn't even a pro yet. I could see Froppy and the pro she was working with behind her. Deku. It's me. It's 𝗀𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗘. I shook my head. I didn't want to know that. Go away. We need to get you home. You're M-. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to remember. You lie. Heroes always lie. I started to sob. I could hardly get the words out. False hope. Sweet nothings. We're going to have to take him by force, the pro hero said. I didn't care to remember who she was. I just hears the words, which made me cry harder. No. I backed up, but Froppy grabbed me around the waist with her tongue. I had to think fast. I grabbed the pocket knife from my pocket and slashed at the tongue. The frog girl yelped and dropped me. 𝗀𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 smacked my arm before I fell, which activated her anti-gravity quirk. Now I was really panicking. I couldn't do much from up here. I debated throwing my knife, but it was the only weapon I had on me. Before the pro could react, I was engulfed in darkness. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘. I'd never been so relieved to be rescued. Before I could blink, I was sitting on the bar floor. The tears wouldn't stop coming down my face and sobs escaped my throat. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘. I felt a smack. I was so surprised I didn't feel the pain right away. What was all that training for? I stared up at 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘. He had never hit me before. I didn't even comprehend his words. Why did you panic? I don't. Izuku, we've been training you for several weeks now. What's the point if you fall apart at the slightest sign of trouble? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It was 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗃. It caught me off guard. I don't care who it was. You need to cut away unnecessary memories and feelings. Why, yes, sir. It won't happen again. I wiped the tears out of my eyes. We also need to get your anxiety under control. If it comes to pills, so be it, but that's a last resort. We need to be fully aware and reliable. Got it? I swallowed and nodded. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 helped me up and sat me at the bar counter. He made me eat a light supper and cleaned up the scrape on my face. Okay, now go get some rest. Yes, sir. I began to walk to my room, then stopped. How did you know I was in trouble? I'm sorry, Izuku, but you need to be more reliable if you want our eyes off of you. That was proved today. Why, yes, sir. Good night. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘. No. I don't know her. 𝗀𝗡𝗘. 𝗀𝗡𝗘. No. I'd spent all this time with the League trying to forget my past, and I almost succeeded. Shigaraki said that I had to leave my past behind and to become a new person. And I did. I tried really hard to forget. But stupid 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗃. I froze. I said her name. I remembered. 𝐶RP. No way. Please let me forget. Please let me forget. Let me forget everything. My past. My mom. Let me forget that I'm becoming a villain. I froze. I'd never said the words out loud, but now, the truth was right in front of me. Right from my own mouth. Why can't I just? My voice cracked. Be a hero. It was a simple request, really. I'd never once asked anyone for anything else. It was the one thing I wanted in my life. I only wanted to save people. There were countless days where that thought was the only thing that kept me going. When I become a hero, if I get a quirk, if I get stronger. I curled myself into a ball in my bed, pulling at my hair as I rocked back and forth. Gotta forget. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗃's face was burned into my memories. I could hear her saying, Deku, over and over again in my mind. You like her? Shut up. Me in junior high, standing on the roof, wonder how much it would hurt if I fell. Or if I would die on impact if I'm not like that. I mumbled. Sure. Ricky. My eyes popped open. There was only one way to forget. Shigaraki. I stumbled towards the door. I had to do this. I didn't care what I had to go through. Shigaraki. I ran down to the bar. Shigaraki was always up late drinking. He told me it helped him get to sleep. I burst into the room. I could feel tears streaming down my face, but I didn't care. Shigaraki was sitting in front of a TV screen that said, audio only. A man's voice was coming through. Everything froze when I entered. Shiga. I didn't finish. The man grabbed me by the shirt, choking me. Little brat. This is a private meeting. No pawns allowed. It was hard to get the words out. Get out of my face. Tamura. Shigaraki froze when the man from the TV spoke up. Sensei. Let the boy talk to you. I'll tell you the plans later. Yes, sensei. I was surprised to hear how easily Shigaraki listened to the man. I was guessing that he was the boss of the league. The TV turned off and Shigaraki turned to give me his attention. Well, I tries so hard to forget. I ran into 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗃 today, and I've started to have doubts about being here and working with you. What was that, you brat? Wait. I'm not going to leave. I just want to clear my mind of all this 𝗧𝗟𝗃. I want you to brainwash me. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 was against the plan, but everyone else was on board with it. 𝗀𝗏 and Twice seemed a little too excited in my opinion. You do know that you'll be in a works of pain, right? Shigaraki was attaching wires to me as we spoke. We could find you therapy or dash. No way. I'm getting over this the only way I know how. By running away. Izuku, these memories are the center of who you are. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 sounded worried. If you erase them, I don't know what'll be left. Great. I'd love to restart. I gritted my teeth as Shigaraki injected me with pain-numbing medicine. Izuku dash. Let the brat do what he wants. Twice cut 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 off. I honestly think this is a good lesson for him. Let him feel the pain. If you ever regret your decision, I'll pull the plug and you'll just have to deal with your trauma, okay Izuku? 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 was back to worrying about me. He somehow reminded me of my mom. Don't think about her. She'd be really disappointed in you. Just do it. I said through gritted teeth. Without warning, the machine whirred to life. The initial pain made me scream. I heard 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 call my name in the back of my head, but I shook my head. Leave it. I gave in. I tried to not resist the pain. It'll help, it has to help. The machine kept going for days, only stopping when 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 thought that Izuku was in too much pain. He would stop the process, but Izuku would glare at him. Don't stop now. His voice would be hoarse from all the screaming, but he refused to give up halfway. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 would regretfully turn the machine back on and the screaming began once again. Eventually it stopped, but only because Izuku lost his voice and had passed out. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 took this time to feed Izuku and tend to any wounds he had acquired while struggling to get out of the bonds that kept him down. He made sure to do this fast since he didn't know when Izuku would wake up next. It went on for 4 days. It was a long, drawn-out process. No matter how much Izuku claimed he didn't want to remember who he was, there was still a small part of him, deep down, that couldn't bring himself to let it go. After seemingly endless torture, the machine finally turned off for good. Izuku opened his eyes and jumped. Who are you? He asked in a raspy voice. He winced and looked down. Wait. Who am I? Izuku Midoriya. We are the League of Villains and you're one of us, Shigaraki said. Don't you remember us? Without warning, Izuku let out a laugh. It was eerie and out of place with the boy. He hadn't laughed in so long. Sorry, League of Villains. He laughed harder. What a stupid name. Izuku dash. Why's my head hurt? I can't feel my hands. Why am I trapped here? Am I your captive? He laughed again. You guys enjoy torturing little. He looked down his shirt. Boys. Izuku, you're part of our team. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 was put off by the way Izuku was behaving. It was nothing like he was before. He thought something like this might happen. His past is what made him who he was, but now with it gone, he was like a little kid again. He had no filter and kept saying things very bluntly. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 started to undo the straps of the machine. Whoa dude, what are you doing? Letting you go. Okay, just wanted to make sure you weren't gonna hurt me again. Izuku, we did that because you wanted it. Shigaraki kicked me. Don't remind him if the past. He might remember again and this whole thing will restart. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 got Izuku's bonds off and helped him stand. The boy wavered slightly, most likely starving despite 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘's attempts to feed him. He was pale and looked thinner than he had been before. Izuku leaned heavily on 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 for support as he brought him upstairs. We'll have you eat something and then you should take a shower. How do I take a shower? 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 gave Izuku a concerned look. Izuku, do you remember anything? Yeah, but nothing you're telling me. I remember how to talk, don't I? What else? Izuku though about it for a second. How to use a gun. Algebra. How babies are made. Okay, so those last 2 aren't extremely useful, but at least you remember how to shoot. They had made it to the bar. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 set Izuku down at the counter. He had a thought. He picked up a wine bottle. Can you read this? Izuku stared at the bottle blankly. I can read a few words, but most of it is gibberish. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 hummed and got to work making some broth. He assumed Izuku wouldn't be able to keep most food down right now. Tell me if you remember anything else. Izuku was swinging his legs and humming tunelessly. He was acting a lot younger than he was. Before he had lost his memories, he'd been fairly mature for his age. Now, he wasn't even as mature as a junior higher. Are you my dad? 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 wasn't ready for that question. Then who are you? That was a good question. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 hadn't really thought about what he was to the boy. Your sensei. It wasn't a lie, since 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 had taught him basic Japanese and math until he had been caught up mentally to that of a third year. I don't think that's right. Who's my dad then? We don't know that Izuku. Oh. He accepted it so easily. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 didn't think that he had the mental capability at the moment to understand what he was saying. This kid was going to be a lot more difficult to deal with than before. Are you gonna give that to me, or will I just have to pry it from your cold, dead hands? 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 looked back. He had finished the broth, but he had been caught up in thinking. Izuku's face had changed. He looked more sinister, and that seemingly offhand comment was most likely a threat. Something had changed in Izuku's voice. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 handed the boy the broth, and Izuku drank it straight from the bowl, wincing when it burned him. Careful. Izuku glared at him. Whatever. He downed the rest of the soup and stood up. I'm gonna go find a shower and learn how to use it. He wandered off before 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 could stop him. He hoped the boy wouldn't get too lost in the hideout. After he left, 𝗀𝗨 came in. He okay? 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 shrugged. Mentally, he's unstable. He's missing vital things in his memory. It's also likely he doesn't have a set-in-stone personality. His maturity is gone and he seems to have trouble thinking straight. Yeah. At least he didn't lose it completely though. He would have been useless then. Shigaraki tapped his fingers on the counter. The real question is, can we still trust him? I'm not sure. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 poured 𝗀𝗨 a cocktail. Hopefully this wasn't a mistake. Yeah. Sensei's been telling me that the kid could be the key to bringing down All Might. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 nodded. I know. I guess we'll just have to teach him the things he doesn't know anymore and we'll go from there. This is too much backtracking for me. Have fun. Call me when he's a normal human again. Just then, there was a scream. It was Izuku. He went to see what it was, but Izuku was already running down the hallway, a towel around his waist. That burned. 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 sighed. This was going to take a while to get used to. Slowly, Izuku began to remember more. Nothing about his past came up, but at least he could take care of himself now. For a while, all he did was train, play video games, eat, learn to read, and sleep. He'd gotten into the habit quickly, but the villains noticed his lack of stamina and energy. After he collapsed while training with Toga, they decided to cut back a little bit. It was frustrating for Shigaraki since he'd planned on moving on with All for One's plan sooner rather than later. So annoying, he would mutter to himself. Izuku's uncharacteristic personality changes also didn't help with his condition. One moment, he'd be happily swinging his legs and humming an off-turned song, then the next. He'd have a dark gleam in his eyes and an unwavering grin on his face that sent shivers down the spines of the villains. His moods would also change very often. One moment he would be laughing, and the next he would be sobbing. None of the villains knew what to do, so they just let him figure things out for himself. Toga, I want to go outside. The comment came out of nowhere for the League. Outside? Shigaraki asked. I don't think that's a great idea. Why not? Izuku's big, innocent eyes was all Shigaraki could look at. He knew it was an act, but it was hard to say no to that. I'll take him out. Toga volunteered. No, he's not going out. He might remember something from his past and then we'll have to start all over again. We've already wasted enough time. So, Izuku stayed inside where everything was boring. Shigaraki wouldn't let him play games until he had finished them first, which meant that there were several half-finished games that Shigaraki hadn't touched in months that he couldn't play. When he was bored, he usually ended up learning how to cook with 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗘 or the best torture methods from 𝗀𝗧𝗑. He was also learning whatever the heck Twice was trying to teach him. Although the others just saw it as nonsense, Izuku seemed to listen like his life depended on it. And the result wasn't something to be desired. Izuku's mind had been fragile from the brainwashing, but now so many things were thrown at him at once, he couldn't keep up with it all. He'd randomly pass out from forgetting to eat or sleep, or he'd hurt himself doing the simplest tasks, like brushing his teeth because he gets the razor mixed up with his toothbrush. To top it all off, he'd have bouts of insanity that he didn't remember the next day. Once, he was close to stabbing Shigaraki through the face, so the League confined him to a makeshift cell. The next day, he didn't know where he was or anything about the day before. These happened so often that someone almost always had to be with him. Izuku was becoming more of a nuisance than an asset to the League. We should just do the kid a favor and kill him off. 𝗏𝗏 suggested. Poor kid. We should try and fix this. I want Lil Izuku back to normal. Toga pouted. None of us are safe with a kid who won't hesitate to kill us in our sleep, but we can't let him out into society either. Kurohige would never admit that the mid had grown on him, even if the League saw through his facade. We could drop him off at a mental hospital. Shigaraki suggested. He should be where he belongs. We did this to him, Kurohige insisted. We need to take care of it. He was the one who asked for it, 𝗀𝗘 suggested. The door creaked and a large, green eye was peeking through the crack. You want to get rid of me? Izuku dash. Look, kid. Shigaraki cut off Kurohige. I don't want to die because you can't control your own brain. I think letting the shrinks deal with you would be best. But I want to stay. Izuku had tears in his eyes. He really did act like a little kid. The heros'll get me. They'll torture me for information. I can't go through that. You've had worse. But I'm just. Izuku, I'm thinking of the greater good for the League here. I have nothing against you. Don't you get it? Shigaraki was starting to get annoyed. Tamura, I think we should dash. Kurohige tried to cut in again. What are we gonna do? Brainwash him again? Kill him off? Isn't the nut house the best place for him now? Unless you want his BLD on your hands. Don't throw me in there. I'll die in there. Izuku stumbled over to Shigaraki. I want to be with you guys. I want to be in the League. Kid, drop the gun. Izuku froze. WAGU dash. Before he could finish the sentence, Shigaraki grabbed him by the neck, carefully to keep one finger up. Drop it? After a few seconds and Shigaraki's finger drifting closer and closer to Izuku's neck, the boy allowed the gun in his sleeve to hit the ground. 𝗏𝗏, lock him up until we have a plan for what to do with him. Yes, sir. 𝗏𝗏 started to drag Izuku away. He kept kicking and screaming at 𝗏𝗏 to let him go, but the just resulted in 𝗏𝗏 slinging him over his shoulder. Don't you dare throw me away, Shigaraki. Izuku was yelling. Let me down, you basta dash. The door slammed shut behind them. Let me out of here. Izuku had been yelling for the last 3 hours. His voice was starting to sound raspy and his hands were raw from shaking the bars of the cell. I promise I'll do better. I promise I'll keep my mind sane. Don't throw me away. He started sobbing before he could stop himself. I didn't do anything wrong. He detached himself from the bars and sat in the corner, curling himself into a ball of self-pity. He knew his mind wasn't back to normal. Something was off. It scared him so bad. I really could kill them all. The epiphany came much calmer than he would have expected. Instead of being scared of the realization, he stated it almost like a fact. I could kill them all, but I wouldn't. It had been hours. Izuku's mind was fuzzy and the idea of murder lingered. He had thought of all the ways 𝗀𝗘 had taught him to torture someone. He wouldn't just kill, he would prolong their suffering until he felt they got what they deserved, then he'd end it quickly. A slash to the neck or a bullet to the heart would do just fine. His thoughts were interrupted by metal clanging on metal. Izuku looked up to see a tray of food in his cell. 𝗀𝗘 had brought it and had slid it in from the small opening between the floor and in bars. Eat up, brat. Izuku frowned at the food. No. Well then, I guess you can starve. He went to grab the tray and Izuku grabbed his arm, tugging in under the cell door until it got stuck. Izuku sat on his arm and reached for his pocket where the key would be. Get off me. 𝗀𝗘 tried to pull his arm away, but it was stuck between a rock and a hard place. In other words, the cell door and Izuku's butt. The boy didn't weigh a lot, but with the cell door added to the trap, it would take him a minute to get his arm free. After rummaging through Dabi's pockets for a moment, he found what he was looking for. He stood triumphantly with the key in his hand. "See ya, sucker." He opened the cage up, shoving Dabi along with the door, then made a run for it. Parting is such sweet sorrow. He let out an insane laugh as he ran towards the exit. Izuku had made a detour to grab a gun, 2 pockets full of bullets, a holster with more bullets, 3 knives, and he changed into his villain costume. If he wanted to kill, he was gonna kill in style. He ran into 𝗏𝗏 first. He wasn't too thrilled about wasting his bullets, so he decided on hand-to-hand. As 𝗏𝗏 ran at him, he ducked and tripped the man. Without missing a beat, he grabbed 𝗏𝗏's arm and twisted it until he felt it pop out of its socket. 𝗏𝗏 yelped in pain, but Izuku wasn't done. He wrapped his hands around 𝗏𝗏's neck. "Don't want you to spill the beans." His hands tightened and his grin widened. "Get Brett." 𝗏𝗏 was having trouble getting air into his lungs. Izuku wasn't stronger than 𝗏𝗏. Far from it. 𝗏𝗏 grabbed him by the back of the vest and yanked the boy off of him. The grip on his neck tightened, but 𝗏𝗏 had nabbed one of Izuku's knives. He grabbed the weapon and aimed the blade at Izuku's arm. Deciding that it was better to let 𝗏𝗏 get away than have his arm impaled, Izuku dodged the knife to his arm. Instead, he grabbed his gun at his waist. Wasting no time, he aimed the gun and shot. 𝗏𝗏 was sent to the floor, writhing in pain. Once again, Izuku couldn't bring himself to kill the man. He had shot him in the shoulder. He kicked the stolen knife out of 𝗏𝗏's hand and stuck it back in its sheath. Izuku had to hurry. Dabi would get free soon. He didn't need any more distractions. He ran towards the weapons room and found a couple canisters of gases. One was tear gas, 2 smoke bombs, and the last was poison. He stuck those in his pockets. When he turned to leave, Shigaraki and Toga were there. Before a word could be said, Izuku threw down one of the smoke bombs. He ran past the 2 and towards the exit. He had an eye open for 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏. The door to the bar burst open and Izuku held up a gun. There, 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 was cleaning glasses. "I won't stop you." Izuku was taken aback. "Huh. Kill trap send off. I don't think that an asylum or hell is a place for a child. I wish you well on your own. Don't die too soon." Izuku grinned. "Knew I could count on you." Izuku shot him in the shoulder for good measure. Izuku wandered through the streets. It had been hours since he ate, but his stomach wouldn't rumble. He didn't feel hunger pangs. He didn't feel thirsty either. All he wanted to do was go on a rampage. He wanted to kill and cause havoc. He wanted to see blood and guts on the walls. And he knew the perfect target. He was going to